Hello, I'm Alexandre Pollazzon, and this is Steve Slocombe, and we're presenting 3 a.m. Eternal live at the Louise Blouin Foundation for Art After Dark.
The Art After Dark kind of concept, if you like, is, in a sense, it's giving you a chance to kind of experiment a little bit. It's, it is just for one night. It's on an evening, it's in the dark, and it kind of takes you away from maybe the kind of typical confines of doing a show.
I think we were interested by the idea of using the nightclub as an image, or as the image we have in mind when we think about nightclubbing, and to use it as a kind of grammar or as a kind of aesthetic and visual language to make an exhibition. So that's why we decided to show works immediately at the entrance of the space, and we had this kind of doll, this kind of sculpture called Booby Tuesday, made in collaboration between two artists, Stephen Knight and Lee Benjamin. And it makes sense because this doll is in fact interpreted by Stephen Knight as a performer, and he dresses up as this doll, and he is always at the entrance of some nightclubs here in London. So we play with this idea of placing some works, like, for example, Steve did like a really big print that we put at the entrance, which looks like a kind of giant flyer or something like that, or a poster, or a page of a magazine, all these things in between. So I think everyone could relate it to this kind of artworks. And the idea of putting all the artworks on the first floor in the dark with a smoking machine also was just taken from this kind of image we have from nightclubs. So we use this experience to make a visual, something very dynamic visually in terms of curatorial practices.
What was interesting to me was the idea of maybe somehow kind of deconstructing the nightclubbing kind of experience almost. Because typically in a nightclub you get the lights, you get the sound, you get the smoke, you get the dancing, you get everything kind of piled on top of one another. And here, given the space, I thought it would be interesting to try and maybe separate those elements out slightly. So you had sort of performers on the ground floor, you had still works in the foyer, and then on the first floor you had kind of like, in a sense, a sort of group show installation almost, where we had smoke and lasers, the room was dark, and we had various sort of mixed media work, video work, prints, kind of wall pieces, so on and so forth.
I think what is important to say is we did not try to make here a nightclub, because that would be totally utopian as well. You don't do a nightclub in one night.
The artists that we showed their work, I had no idea particularly what their reaction. I kind of hinted at how we might present their work, but without fully kind of knowing exactly how it was going to work, because until you filled the space with smoke and lasers and seeing how that can work in the different lighting, you can't be quite sure how in practice it's going to come out. And I think when they turned up, Adham, for example, who had a couple of video pieces in it, he was extremely happy with the fact that he'd seen his work in this new and interesting way. And I think that, in a sense, of course, the point was not just to recreate a club that's not very interesting, but it was to see what we could take from that and use to kind of maybe do something different.